the trippers, the grasshoppers, the hip ones, all gathered in secrecy and flying high as a kite. Forget it, man, and get with the countdown. Shake this square world and blast off for Kicksville.
Hello, everyone. This is one very tired Spiiciiboii coming to you live for whatever episode this is of the Hanging Loose podcast. I don't 22. Keep track because I'm not 23. A professional. 23? RV3 says 23. RV23, episode RV23. Brought to you as always by Great Lakes Disc. Speaking of Great Lakes Disc, when I was in Utah this weekend filming the Beehive Classic, I got to meet and interact with Nicholas Gill, who made a very close run for the top spot, almost taking out Connor Rock. He finished in second place. Good win for Connor. But I spoke with Nick at length about one Papa Wolf, and now he's the homie. And we really did a T-pad of hole 7. Nick and I spoke about how helpful and encouraging and nice Brian is for people who are new to the sport, veterans of the sport, whatever. He's just an all-around good person to know in the sport of disc golf. So thank you for all you do, Brian. We do genuinely appreciate you and talk about you behind your back in only the most positive of ways. Use code Hanging Loose at Great Lakes Disc for 10% off your order and give us a little kickback. If you want. If you don't, then don't. I apologize in advance. I filmed 4 rounds of disc golf and caddied a round of disc golf this weekend, so I am beat to shit. But it's going to be fun. We've got Dave the Rocket Guy on today, and it'll be exciting to talk to him about his disc golf baskets with rockets on them, and if he's ever made a putt while one of them is landing. That's going to be the first thing I ask him. RV3 said he's a rocket expert because he's seen October Sky. So
didn't say that. That's not what I said.
We're gonna talk about.
I didn't say I was an expert. I said I've seen rockets before and have launched rockets before. Did not say I was an expert. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm very happy to be here. Just the 2 hosts of the podcast, Spiiciiboii DG and the real RV3.
Yeah, we don't have any other hosts.
On the Hanging Loose Disc Golf podcast.
Yeah.
Caleb was out today because his internet's bad. Bad internet.
So he says.
Yeah, that's okay. Whatever it is what it is. A weekend at the fort. That's got to be like...
It was incredible.
Yeah, that just because of the history of it, it's got to be insane.
It's kind of funny because like people go there and everyone that goes there, of course, they go to the holy shot spot, and they have like the moment. But like the first thing I did when I got home today, while I was eating because I was starving, was rewatch 2021 Worlds.
Okay,
and see all of the places I just was, and then realize what a historic place I had just visited and spent time at, and it was really something else. Oh, Dave's in here already. What's up, buddy? Yeah, we'll get you in just a little bit, or if you want to come in and start talking about disc golf now, that's fine too.
Yeah, well, I wanted to hear about your Ford stuff first, and then we'll bring Dave on.
Okay. I mean, I have a lot of Ford stuff. I'm fortunate if you see the little title under my name, but basically, I flew in on Wednesday night. John Braidman, who's a great guy, he runs Local Route Productions. He was my catch cameraman, and the wonderful Terry Miller flew us both out to Utah so that we could film this great event. And Thursday morning, I caddied for Leah Jenny, who's an OTB teammate of mine and an all-around absolutely wonderful person. Second time I've caddied for her. The fort is astoundingly beautiful. It's gorgeous to be there. I'm an Arizona boy. Everything here is beige. So I've never like walked through woods before. That was the first time I've ever done that. First time in Utah. First time at the fort. First travel gig. I told Leah on the tee pad of like hole 10, I think it was. I was like, this is you caddying for you is the only thing out of this weekend that I've ever really done before. So,
well, you filmed a bunch.
Yeah, but I haven't filmed at the fort. You know what I mean? It was it was essentially a week of new experiences. So, there were way too many mosquitoes every day, twice a day. I had to coat myself in sunscreen and bug spray, and I
got
still
a big thing about mosquitoes here. Yeah,
bug bites.
That thing's gross looking.
Just look at got a nice little shiner there. I don't think that was a mosquito.
So gross. I think I'm doubting highly that was a mosquito.
But first round, it was the round I caddied for Leeson and Jenny. Emily Yale was on the card. Danny Clyden was on the card, who I had just met for the first time. They were great. And damn it, who was on? Vanessa Van Dyken.
Okay.
Who admittedly, and this is going to go on the internet, she'll probably get tagged a bunch. Little crushy poo. I've always had a little crushy poo on Vanessa Van Dyken. Don't show it around her because you don't want to be the weird camera guy. But she was very nice, very sweet. Everyone was very accommodating. MPO round that day was Bedanza. I got to film Bedanza, which was pretty cool. Super nice guy. Jake Brown, Connor Rock, and
did Bedanza know who you were?
No.
Okay. I feel like he not should, but like that.
It wouldn't be surprising if he had
if he knew
the name. It's. I mean, I never expect it, but
no. Ricky, so, like you were at Ricky's party now, so you're like the Ricky party New Year's guy. So
yeah. So MPO went great the first day. Second day we didn't have to film, so first day I caddied at 12:30, finished that round at 4:00, had to come back and film at 5. So we ran back to the Airbnb. I inhaled a sandwich, took a shower, changed, and then came back to film. And then the second day we didn't have to work till 5:30. So I just laid in my bed until about 4:00 and played on my phone while John edited
sounds
the
like
footage.
A way more productive weekend than I had. And I was building a disc golf course, and you had a way more productive weekend than I did. I worked for a few hours on Saturday, and then ended up watching the 24-hour of Le Mans was this weekend.
Yes, and
they were behind safety car for Ferrari did 2 years in a row.
Correct.
Yeah, 2 years in a row. Anyway, they had a safety car that was an hour and a half long in time, and the safety car ran out of gas because it was driving around the track for so long. It's under when it goes under. Yeah, it's a pace car. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But apparently the rain was so bad that nobody could see anything, so they just kind of neutralized the race and drove around at 80 miles an hour for an hour and a half. They ran out of gas.
Kind of how the fort was because it's all, and her name's Heather. She was a volunteer coordinator for this event. She was really sweet, very fun.
Heather from? Where is she from?
Huh? She's from Utah. The fort is her home course.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so she was out there. She was helping me with like sunscreen and water refills and everything. So shout out to Heather. She was great. I called her my course wife, and she called me her course husband. So that was pretty fun to just have that dynamic. But she actually told me that the male cottonwood trees that are all over the fort are not indigenous to Utah. They were brought in. Somebody imported them. Yeah, I can imagine it would be something. But they were brought in from New York by somebody who just wanted them, and they didn't expect the trees to like reproduce. And so in some of my coverage, you're going to see it looks like it snowed because there's so much cottonwood on the ground. Yeah,
we have a just like rows and rows of them at the course that I'm building. And so whenever, we wrap up and, throw a couple shots at some of the baskets we put in, that's what it just looks like snow the entire time.
Yeah.
It's very like Enchanted Forest kind of look to it, like when
because everything's like falling and drifting in the sunlight.
Yeah. That's exactly what it looks like.
Aesthetically, it's great, but practically, it's like in your eyes. And I had Yeti ankles when I left every day, and it was fun. But the mosquitoes were super annoying. Even for the players, they were getting pissed. Like, I'm sure there's going to be shots from the catch cam where you can see me behind the player throwing, going. And it's going to be really entertaining. So my probably one of my favorite things that happened is after yesterday's round, we John and I were like, let's go grab a drink, celebrate, it's a good shoot, whatever. So we find this bar in downtown Ogden called Funk and Dive. We walk in, we give them our IDs, and the guy's like, it's a $10 cover. And we were like, what? A cover for a bar in Utah? And he's like, yeah, we have a burlesque show going on. And John and I just looked at each other. We were like, yeah, we can check this out.
All right. Yeah.
This was Utah. It was harmless. It wasn't anything extreme at all, but it was a really cool, actually, Pride Month burlesque performance. So they had men and women. They called male burlesque boilesque, which is a little sus. Like, boy is a little weird, but I get in the context that
the boy part is a little weird, but I get it. Yeah,
it was just kind of happening in the background while John and I played pool. He's a great pool player. He beat me 3 times out of 5. So,
and you're pretty good from what I understand. You've had a couple stories on the podcast about.
Yeah, I was beat ass tired from 2 rounds, but I beat him a couple times. He just beat me more. He's a good player too. So, but that was fun. And then we went home, went to bed, and then packed up. His flight left at 7:30 this morning, and mine left at 11 o'clock. And you're not allowed to check in for a flight more than 4 hours early. So I had to just sit outside security at the airport for 2 hours.
Oh, no way.
Just and then when I finally got
there's nothing outside security either. Like, what are you going to do?
Right. There was one room where a bunch of airport employees were sleeping, and I just walked in quietly and sat there myself like, okay. And then I checked in, got some breakfast, and then eventually made it home. I've been home for about 4 hours, and again, I'm sorry for my.
So in the 4 hours since you've been home, you tried to get a Nike sponsorship? What's that about?
You guys only see this side of my head, but the back of my head, as most chubby bald men do have, if you'll next slide, please, you'll see is beautifully dimpled. And if you ignore the fact that I'm wearing Adidas in this photo and you zoom in on the back of my head, that's my friend Hannah Stefanovic there, by the way, throwing off the iconic 16.
Right around here?
Yeah, it says Air, A-I-R. And that is the same logo as the Nike Air shoes from the 90s. So I'm trying to turn this into a Nike sponsorship, obviously. We'll see what happens. Nike, if you want to replace those Adidas, I won't be mad at you. Lord knows you have billions of dollars. You can spare one pair of shoes. Anyway, the other thing that I saw during my round is we saw some wildlife. My buddy John managed to see 2 baby great horned owls, which he's going to put on the coverage. And then I saw this giant ass snake that was about a foot from me. Look at that guy. He's a big boy.
How long is that? Like 8 feet, 6 feet?
No, it's probably 5 or 6 feet. But
okay. Well, yeah, there's some grass there. You can kind of see the.
What you can't see out of frame here is Leah Sin and Jenny going, "He's so cute," and recording him.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, he's coming right at me." So I'm gonna go ahead and walk to the T-pad now.
Right.
We actually had a couple snake sightings. We had the baby great horned owls, which if you guys follow Nope Rope. Yeah, I'm not a snake guy either, which is why I got away from it. But Local Route Productions on Instagram is my buddy John. Great guy. He and I got along super well. We worked together super well. And he has the clip of the baby great horned owls that he recorded on his Instagram. So if you want to see it, go follow him, give him the likes and everything.
Now that we've heard about your lovely trip to the fort, and my lovely experience of watching Ferrari go back to back and belly to belly.
Spoken like a true Yankees fan. Let's get Dave in here.
Let's get Dave, the Rocket guy.
Man.
Dave, the Rocket guy. Welcome to the Hanging Loose podcast. How the heck are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sorry that Shank's not here.
I'm not.
All right. Well, start out by telling us a little bit about yourself. But actually, wait, time out. Before you do that, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Spicy has a question.
What's that?
Have you ever made a putt in a basket that was landing?
I have not. No. In fact, you're talking about the flying disc golf basket. Only one person has ever actually hit it while it was in the air. They didn't actually land it in the tray, but he made contact with it, though. But we've had 17 flights with it. We've had a lot of people throw disc at it, and come nowhere near it. But one dude was able to hit it. It was pretty amazing. That happened last summer.
That's insane. All right, so tell us about yourself, Dave, the Rocket guy.
Well, I've been playing disc golf since since 04, and I've been involved in high-powered rocketry since 05 or thereabouts. And the first thing I'd like to do is this is something that's near and dear to my heart. As you see on my hat here, it says University of Notre Dame rocketry team. And I've been working with them for about 12 years now. And they compete in a competition that NASA puts on called USLI, which stands for University Student Launch Initiative. And this year was the first year that they won. Wow. So that was a really, really big deal for me, because they compete against, like 45 to 50 other teams. And these are teams that are no slouches. I mean, they compete against University of Louisville, Cornell, Purdue, and a lot of really big schools. So this is a huge deal for me. So I got to give a shout out to them and say, man, I'm so proud of all the students that I get to work with. So, but anyways,
so cool.
Yeah.
Do they call themselves the Flying Irish? Because if they don't, they should.
Yeah.
No, you're right. They should. No, they don't call themselves the Flying Irish. It's a good idea, though. You know what? I will pitch that to them this fall when we start up the next season.
I won't even ask for royalties.
Flying Irish. Yeah. That's a good idea.
When I was 13, I went to Tennessee to Oak Ridge to stay with my aunt for a week. And signed up for. I was there for 2 weeks, and there was like I want to say it was like a children's museum or like community center or something, and they had a introduction to rocketry course that was 4 days, and you went for like an hour or 2 hours every day, forget what it was, and you build like model rockets, and that was the summer after I had saw the movie October Sky, which I was referencing when you got here. So that's the extent of my rocket knowledge. I know that you buy them from a hobby shop. Most of the time I glue them together very poorly. Shove a rocket engine that you also buy from the hobby shop into the bottom of it, and then you launch it. How different and how much more complex are the ones that you shoot versus the one that I haphazardly glued together and shoved a piece of firework into the bottom of it?
Did you say haphazardly? I'm gonna haphazardly.
I mean, I fly some pretty big ones, but I just use this one as an example. This is what we call an odd rock, but I still fly small rockets. I still fly the little Estes ones, like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But then the ones you see behind me, those are fairly big ones, I guess. The biggest one I have that's in flyable condition right now is about 7.5, 8 foot tall, and 4-inch diameter. The biggest one that I've ever flown by myself, it's not really in flyable condition right now. It's about 7.5-inch diameter, and it's about 8 foot tall. So it's it's a lot of fun, but it's also very expensive to fly, and it's a real kind of a pain in the butt. By that real big one I was just mentioning weighs about 30 pounds, and it's a real pain to bring out to the pad, and it's a real pain to bring out to fetch out of the field once after it's flown.
Yeah.
So, I fly all sorts of size rockets, from these little guys up to the big ones behind me.
That's
cool. The big ones, we'll put altimeters in them and trackers, and we'll put cameras in them. So, for example, I've got a little onboard camera here. I'll put that on so I get video. That's a big thing for me, is to get video on them. And a lot of people ask me, if we fly them so high, how do you keep track of them? You keep from losing them. Well, this right here is a GPS tracker. So this will receive, it's got a little GPS receiver here, and this antenna will transmit its location to this guy right here. And this guy will tell me on this screen here where this is with the GPS coordinates, so I can always find it, because when you fly really high, you can't always see your rockets.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
That yellow thing looks like it would be way more dangerous than it actually is.
Right.
Especially with the giant red button on the side of it.
Right. No, it's just a programming button. It doesn't. The only thing this does is that it just receives this signal.
I understand 100%, but it looks
like that scene on the boat from The Dark Knight where he's like,
right.
And before every launch, Dave's like, "Here we go."
Yeah. I am definitely not the Joker. I'm not Heath Ledger here. So, but yeah, that's what we keep track of the rocket. And one thing that's cool about this is you got a little headphone jack in here, and this will actually talk to you and tell you as you're walking through the field. It goes, okay, you got to go so many degrees to the left, and it's 465 feet away, so on and so forth. So
I need one of those for my discs.
What's that?
I said,
you don't throw that far to need one of those for your disc.
Me throwing that far, that would be, I could throw that far and then I wake up. So
well, I was talking about Spicy. He doesn't need one of those because he doesn't throw far enough to need one.
Oh, right.
No.
Right. Yeah. I'm in the same boat, man. Spicy. I feel for you. That's where I'm at. I never throw them out of sight.
I mean, for me, it's like trees, especially being at the fort. Like, dude, we spent so much time looking for discs, so much time, because it's just, it'll kick left into the woods 60 feet and you're like, I don't know where it went. I also wanted to point out how courtesy violation-esque your background is, Dave. They're going to love that.
Well, how's that?
Have you listened to the Courtesy Violation podcast?
No, I haven't. Not yet.
Okay.
I will now.
Yeah, definitely check it out, and then you'll know what I'm talking about. We're going to post this clip, and they'll giggle at it when they get it. But basically, they love anything rocket-shaped, if you know what I mean. So the fact that you have a bunch of rockets behind you is absolutely astounding. And I think I've used that adjective like 9 times today, but that's fine. It's in my head. So how did you originally get into, I didn't even know rocketry was the official term until I saw your hat. So can you, how did it start?
What, with the rockets?
Yeah, for you.
Well, for me with rockets, it started when I was in grade school. We are where I grew up, there was a big field behind our house, and a neighbor a couple houses down had some model rockets, and they kind of launched them and showed them to me. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. So we had a foundation right across the street that was just basically a basement and a driveway, and that was it. So it was a perfect launch pad for us. And it sat there for years, abandoned, and they just poured it, and then they gave up on it, I guess. I don't know what the deal was with it. So I just could walk across the street and launch your model rockets, and a bunch of my friends would come over. And that lasted till I was about in 6th grade. And then after that, I kind of lost interest in it. I had, lots of other things going on in life, like band and, whatever in high school. And then when my kids were about, I think were about 4 and 7 years old, I decided to go down to the local hobby store and bought a starter kit. And I thought I'd introduce them to this little hobby. And we launched the little model rocket a couple of times, and they just thought it was the coolest thing ever. And then I found out how big the rockets have gotten in the meantime. And I thought, oh, wow. Well, this is going to be Dad's hobby now. And so that's kind of how that was back in, I think in 05, and then 06, I got my first level of certification. And it just kind of spiraled out of control after that. So there's 3 levels of certification, and I have all 3. And the levels of certification allow you to buy bigger and bigger motors. So
they know you're not using explosives for nefarious purposes.
Right, exactly.
But it's funny because I would say that's a pretty relatable story for anyone in the disc golf world who's, you get one from your buddy across the street at your first disc, and then you spiral out of control very quickly, and you're like, where did these 300 Frisbees come from?
Right. And that's how it went for a lot of people. Now, that's interesting because that's not really how it went for me with disc golf. Now, with disc golf, in 04, I bought a big stack of used discs from a coworker, and I think it was probably about 12 discs or so. And I would go play at this course after work. And, when I get off of work early or something, I'd go over there and play. And I learned at Oshtemo Township Park in Michigan. Are you guys familiar with that? Have you ever heard of that park? They had the 2008 Worlds there or something. It's a very difficult park or course. And
we have so many people from Michigan on this podcast. We might as well be calling this the Michigan Disc Golf Podcast. Yeah. We got Papa Wolf. He's from Michigan. We had oh gosh!
Charles Rafe.
Charles Rafe. He's from Michigan as well. That's insane.
Well, he lives in Indiana, but he plays in Michigan an awful lot.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, Charles, good buddy of mine. So, but yeah, now with disc golf for the first 4 or 5 years, I would play like religiously, like every weekend, or as often as I could. One summer, and then the following summer, I might take the entire summer off from disc golf because I was working so many hours at work, and it was just kind of off and on for me for a long time until I got involved with a league probably in, let's see here, probably 2012 or 2013 or something like that. And then I started playing pretty regularly after that. And then in 2016, I took over a league, and then I changed the name to Sandridge Disc Golf Club. So it wasn't quite like how a lot of people got into disc golf, where they just buy a couple of discs and then next thing you know, we have a closet full of discs. It wasn't quite like that for me. So the journey was a little longer for me, I guess. So
go ahead, RV3.
So have you been to a pro tour stop or not yet? Have you seen live professional disc golf?
I have. I've been to a couple of them. Let's see. I went to the Worlds when it was at Lemon Lake.
Okay.
And let's see. That was 2013, I think.
So you've seen obviously you've seen discs fly and you've seen rockets fly.
Yeah.
Which one's more fun to watch?
Oh God.
The flying disc golf basket, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. When you combine the two, you can't. You can't.
Yeah. When you combine the two, yeah. That's.
We're gonna get into that because that's a whole.
Yeah, that's
the whole aerodynamics part and weight part of that I'm just very confused by. So we'll get to that.
Yeah, it confuses a lot of people. Confuses rocket scientists too.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've seen disc fly. It's I went to what's the one in Peoria? Why can't it? Oh, Ledgestone.
Yep.
Went there once. That was a lot of fun. Went there with my dad one year, and we just sat at hole one and watched every single card tee off in the last day. That was a lot of fun to see how the pros how the pros attacks hole 1, and then we would go over to hole 17 and watch all the pros come in and watch all their hopes and dreams die as they went into the water. So that was, So I've been to a couple. I don't go to a lot of them, but those were the two.
So rocket versus disc versus disc. Which one would you rather watch fly?
Boy, I guess rockets. I guess I don't know. It's kind of a toss up. I mean, it's hard to say. What you did there. Yeah, kind of a toss up, right? Yeah. You see what I did? Yeah.
Oh man, admittedly, I have about the same amount of experience as RV3 does with rockets. I saw one at a park and told my mom I was in about 6th grade. I was like, I have to have one. And there was a big open field across the street from where we lived. And I went, and it probably took me 3 or 4 tries before I actually got a successful, like, decent launch. The first couple were like duds, or like they would fly sideways or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of 6th grade, we had a model rocket contest. Like, some schools have an egg drop, some schools have like a solar. At least my school, the year before we did the rocket thing, we had a solar hot dog cooker competition.
Oh,
and it was like
school
the weirdest
in Arizona,
thing.
folks.
Yeah, that's why we're 48th out of 50 in education. We're like, hot dogs. But our year we did model rockets, and mine came in 2nd place because I don't know how they measured the height, because we didn't have altimeters or anything like that. They just eyeballed it, I guess. But and then, like he said, before you even came in here, he mentioned October Skies. Like, I'm sure Dave's gonna love that.
Yeah.
It's a great movie. How, like, that's the most relevant pop culture, like, rocketry thing that I can think of, but outside of like trying to go to space. That's a completely different rocket.
Yeah, but it's like when someone comes up to us and they're like, frisbee, and you're like, oh, shut up. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing. But Dave,
I could throw a frisbee. Watch this.
Werner von Braun is like the main rocket scientist. Like, he's the one that's credited with all like the propulsion technology and things like that, I think, if I'm understanding it right. How come you don't go by von Braun?
Von Braun?
Von Braun.
Oh, I can't do that. I mean, that guy's a legend.
You're a legend. You put a rocket on a disc golf basket, dog.
Well, no.
You didn't do that.
We don't know that yet. It could have gone the other way.
But he was the guy that's responsible for the Saturn V. I mean, that you can't get more legendary than that. I mean, come on, that's the rocket that brought us to the moon. So he was the one that did all the testing program, and everything worked extensively in Huntsville. And no, I don't want to compare myself to him. Come on,
Not
man. Not
comparing yourself. It's just a little pun. It's a little pun.
It's a little pun on the name.
Dave Von Braun, the rocket guy. It doesn't really roll off the tongue. It really
Dave the rocket guy is great, though.
I agree.
It's exactly like that fit. It's perfect. It's like Spiiciiboii. It's great.
Spiiciiboii.
It's funny when you asked earlier, RV3, if Bedanza knew who I was.
Yeah.
He didn't, but one of the FPO players, we were on hole 18 on day 3. And my friend Hannah Stefanovic was on the lead card. So we fist bumped on hole 18 like we often do. And they always include media, which is nice of them.
Oh, that's
cool. Hannah fist bumped me and she goes, Spiiciiboii. And Emily Yale, one of the lead card players, turns out, she goes, you're a Spiiciiboii? I was like, yeah. And she goes, I hear about you. Terry always shouts you out. I never know who you were. It's nice to meet you. And I was like, well, it's just made my whole trip in one conversation. Thanks, Emily. I appreciate it.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so that was like the only moment like that I had. I got to hear some rocket aspirations from you, Dave. What are some things that you haven't done in the rocket world that you still want to? And how do you have any like plans to further the collab between disc golf and rocketry?
Boy, no, that's a good question. No, let's see. Well, One thing that I would really like to do in the rocketry world that I haven't done yet is go to the Black Rock Desert. And if you're familiar with Burning Man and where that's held, usually the week or two after that, there's a big launch out there called boiis. And
again, courtesy violation is going to love this.
They're going to hit you up. I might.
Yeah, so,
you know what? I have Gibbs. Gibbs called me actually the other day asking me about StreamYard stuff. I'm going to send him. You're going on their podcast. I'm going to send.
Yes, we're going to set you up with another.
Got to be on courtesy violation.
But yeah, they that site out there is where they fly the really, really extreme flights out there. That, you know, people try to hit the von Karman line, which is the line that designates, you know, the space where the atmosphere technically ends and space begins. People, you know, they can fly all sorts of crazy things like out there, like well, sometimes there's groups that show up with kegs, full beer kegs, and they'll launch them to, like, you know, 9,000 feet, and then they'll land and they'll tap the keg and obviously have a drink once all the flying is done for that day.
Space beer.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that's a place I'd like to go see sometime, but that's a pretty big financial commitment, a pretty big time commitment. So maybe after I retire or something like that. It's not something I'm going to do anytime soon. But yeah,
what's the elevation that line is at?
What's that?
What's the elevation that line is that you were mentioning?
Oh, I don't know exactly. I think it's something like 300,000 kilometers or not kilometers, meters or something like that. So 62 miles or no, I don't know. I'd have to get on Google to look it up. I can't remember what that number is. It's a long, long way up.
Spicy's looking it up right now. While he's doing that, he asked about the any more plans for combinations. Now, obviously, we've hinted at it, but you are the mind behind the flying disc golf basket.
That's correct. Yes.
So break that down for us a little bit. Because I'm specifically interested in how the hell you got that thing off the ground in the first place. And obviously, what's the next rocket? Yeah, what's the next thing? How do you level that up?
Oh man, I don't know where to take it next. I'm looking for ideas. Actually, I wouldn't mind hearing some suggestions.
Steve Dodge is the guy you got to talk to. He does something crazy every year at MVP.
Okay,
$1 million shot and all this other kind of stuff. I don't know if you could launch a rocket there, but that'd be pretty sick.
I would love to talk to somebody like Steve Dodge about, you know, ideas like that. But the way the basket kind of came about is actually I talked to a friend of mine a number of years ago, guy by the name of Larry Leonardi, and we were just kind of chatting, and he says, you know, you got to come up with a way of combining both your hobbies. And I don't remember if either he came up with the idea or I came up with the idea. Make one of the baskets fly. And my goal is to take to have this project so that it would exist in both worlds. Okay. So it was really important to me that it would be able to fly in the rocketry world, but also meet the dimensions of a disc golf basket. So I can't have it. You can't just take a practice basket and jam a motor in it because it's all metal. AAA Rocketry Association doesn't allow that. So you can't have it all metal. So I had to build it out of all sorts of other materials. In fact, I have it sitting right here, and I can show you.
Oh, this is
get an idea how big this sucker is next to me.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean this tray, the regulation size is 26 inches diameter, so this is 26 inches across. This center pole is fiberglass. This black tubing is all carbon fiber, and this is all carbon fiber tubing like you would have on quadcopters. Believe it or not, this is made for quadcopters or drones rather.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of plywood here. So these are plywood bulkheads or centering rings here. This is actually a paper shipping tube. This is where the parachute comes out. So this is the chute cannon. So, and there's a nylon chute in here. I'm not going to pull it out, otherwise it's going to make a giant mess. Giant tangled mess. And the way I get the parachute out is right in here in this clear box. There is a timer in there that detects when the rocket takes off. It counts down to 3.5 seconds. Once it hits 3.5 seconds, it sets off a charge in here, and that pushes out the parachute. And keep in mind that this is the 4.0, basically.
Okay.
This is version 4.0. The first two versions crashed. They just went up and they came straight down and just shattered. They were made of all wood. But that was an important flight because that proves that it flew stable. And the third flight kind of worked. I had a timer in it that time to get the parachute out, and the parachute came out, but it was still really, really rough landing. It still kind of disintegrated. But the reason it's stable is because you have this tray in the bottom here, and all of these panels here, they all act like big fins.
So, wow. Okay, that makes sense.
So think about it. These act like big rocket fins. So I kind of knew when I was designing it and I was building it that this was going to be a stable rocket. So it's always flown real stable, and it goes to about 300 feet. It goes 0 to 90 miles an hour in 1.5 seconds.
Jeez.
Like me
it doesn't
flirting.
look that fast, but that's how fast it goes. So, and if anybody's interested, you see these panels here are 8 inches by 6 inches. And if you want to sponsor a flight, it's only $100. Give me $100. I will print out a deal like this, put whatever graphic you want on there. Just all I ask is not political and keep it to PG-13.
Okay.
That's all I ask. But you can put anything you want on here. PG-13,
that's awesome. Not
political. I don't do the politics on this.
Hanging Loose Podcast presents.
The flying basket.
Now, the only bad thing about this is this rocket is so big and it requires such a big motor. It's really, really hard to fly it at disc golf tournaments.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the parks aren't big enough to do this.
Account for landing.
Right.
Yeah. I've discovered that the legalities of it are pretty tough. So the solution
is that just because of the sheer size of it is just
right. You gotta have so much space.
Yeah.
So anyways, to solve that issue, I made the mini flying basket.
Hey,
that's cool.
Now this one falls
Caleb's
under
size.
what we call Class 1 model rocket. So this is actually technically a model rocket, and you don't have to get FAA permission to fly it. I can just fly it. It's as long as I have the landowner to say yes and let me fly it. I can do that. So
that almost looks like a basket upside down. Like the bottom of it looks like the top of a basket.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. But this is exactly the same concept. Same thing. Parachute cannon up here. Parachute comes out. Got a timer in it. Even got a little holster thing for my onboard camera. So,
do you use plastic chains strictly for weight purposes?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, just keep the weight down as much as I can. That's why I have carbon fiber instead of just like
steel.
wood dowels or something like that. The carbon fiber is a little bit lighter.
So my next question kind of goes into the competition that your rocketry team does.
Yes.
Because I know nothing about how that kind of works. What's the typical kind of rocket competition day look like?
Well, it's for Notre Dame, what they have to do is they are judged on a lot of different categories. So it's a judge competition. So they're judged on a lot of different factors. The big thing is they're given a payload challenge. So they have to have a payload and that changes from year to year. And they also have an altitude that they have to hit that they get to pick. So they get to pick an altitude. This year, I believe it was between 3,000 and 6,000 feet. So this year they picked 5,200 feet. They also have presentations. They have 3 presentations they have to give to NASA. They're also judged on various other factors, their safety procedure, how much STEM engagement they have with the surrounding community. By the way, they won the safety category and they won STEM engagement.
Oh, that's 2 big ones right there.
Yeah, it was real big.
2 big ones.
And they came within 2 feet of their target altitude, and their target altitude was 5,200. And believe it or not, they came in second place.
Wow.
Somebody came in 1 foot away from there.
How do you gauge that altitude with the motors that you run? Do you just use an altimeter and you shut it off at a certain time, or how would you do that? You only pack it full of so much?
So we have barometric altimeters we put on the rockets, and that those altimeters will report back to us what they got. So I think in the case, so we have to pick one altimeter to be our competition altimeter, be the official recording one. I think we had a total of 5 altimeters on our rocket, 2 for flight control or for our altitude control system, and 3 for the parachutes. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, we had a lot of teams are now using altitude control systems where we overshoot the altitude we're looking for. So we design the rocket to go to 6,000 feet, but we have flaps that come out that slow the rocket down and fine tune the flight to get to exactly 5,200 feet. And it's amazing what these students are coming up with.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. So, but yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, like, I don't know how much you said you help out the rocketry team, but like when they start a program, like you said, they were going to start a new program in the fall. What would is it like a curriculum, or is it like they have one goal in mind that they're working toward at the end of the program, or what does that look like for them?
So this program is supported by the university, but it is basically an extracurricular activity. So it's not part of a class or officially a part of a class or anything. However, some students, particularly the electronic engineers, will use the payload as, like their senior design project or whatever. They do that from year to year, and I don't get too involved in that. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but a lot of them just use this as just a really nice bullet point on their resume.
So, I graduated from Middle Tennessee State, and they have a pretty big aerospace engineering, department, and that was one of the clubs was they had a rocketry club, because the university has an airport that they run as like part of the.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, part of the
that's really cool.
The aerospace program there, and that was anytime they were testing stuff, you'd know about it because you could see it and smell it. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing what some of these universities have for aerospace, and that, especially like Purdue. Purdue has a gigantic program. They have a bunch of different rocketry teams that all do different things. They have a liquid propulsion. They have one that competes at USLI like Notre Dame does. Believe it or not, Notre Dame is not they don't have quite the extensive program like Purdue does. But they have a great aerospace engineering program, but it's not as big as some schools. That's for sure. Yeah. So, anyways, I'd like to talk a little bit about my disc golf club that is really, really near and dear to my heart.
Absolutely. Let's get into that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So Sandridge Disc Golf Club. I got involved with, let me start here. It was started by a guy by the name of Wade Schultz. And man, I really hope Wade is watching right now. It was used to be called Lake Township Disc Golf Club, I believe. Wade is probably the nicest guy I have ever met and probably the best disc golfer I have ever played with. He could be a 1,000 rated player easy. And I played many, many rounds with him, and he was a real treat. So he handed the club, he had to move away, and he handed the club off to me to be in charge of. And at the time, our course was not very good. We had an 18-hole course. We had crisscrossing fairways. We had some pretty big issues. And then in about 2016, end of 2016, early 2017, the township came and bought a bunch of land, and they moved holes 2 through 9 out in the woods where they bought this land. And that made a world of difference to our course. So we were able to redesign and do a lot of different things to the course. So now we have a decent 18-hole course. And during that time, I renamed the club to Sandridge Disc Golf Club. And the whole reason I renamed it is because the land they bought it from used to be a paintball course that was called Sandridge Paintball. So, but anyways, all that to say is I think that's one of the big things. And I think a lot of disc golfers who run clubs and run leagues, I think they can relate to this is if you want to have a decent league, you got to have a decent course to play on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is one of the foundational elements right there.
Yep.
Then at the same time, the one thing that we're really, really blessed with here in Southwest Michigan is having a great community. And
I was going to say, you either have one or the other. And right now, that's kind of where we're at is our community level is way past where our course level is.
Oh,
and
really?
our course level is catching up really quick. And I've been doing a ton of work over there, and I talk about it pretty much weekly. But you're absolutely right. If you can get those two things and some sort of balance that works, you know, and it'll always kind of skew one way or the other, I think.
Right.
But when you can have a great course and a really good community, that goes a long way.
Yeah, it does. And I gotta say that of all the subsets of society that I've ever run into, whether it's rocket people or other segments of society, disc golfers are some of are hands down the nicest people I've ever dealt with. They're great. At least the ones around here are. They've been so much fun to work with. So, but yeah, I ran Sandridge from from 2017 to just about a year and a half ago. And when I started it, I kind of said, look, I'm not going to do this forever, and at some point, I'm just going to say, at some point, I'm just going to have to hand it off to somebody else. So I kind of warned everybody that this is going to happen. And that's exactly what happened about a year and a half ago. And I handed it off to a guy you had on a podcast a little while ago, Charles Rafe.
Ah, there you go. Perfect.
That guy. So, and he did something with the club that basically I never did. And he's taken it to the next level. And the way I ran the club is I basically told everybody, this is a monarchy. It's just me and I'm the one making all the decisions.
Right.
And I think for our club and the leagues and stuff, I think that was the appropriate thing to do at the time.
Yep.
But at a certain point, I think what Charles is doing, he's got a board of directors and everything. I think that right now for Sandridge to evolve, I think that was absolutely the right step.
Yeah.
And so they are doing a bang up job. They're doing things with it that I never would be able to do on my own. And it's also evolving in a way that I had really intended. I've always intended that Sandridge be a place where people could run their own leagues and run their own tournaments under the Sandridge banner.
Yep.
Or Sandridge umbrella or whatever you want to call it. And that's exactly what's happening. So, there's more tournaments. There's several leagues now instead of just the ones I was running. So it was, so it's going going really well. And I just want to say everybody at Sand Ridge is watching right now, man, I love you guys. I'm sorry I haven't been able to play with you guys very much over the last year. I got a back injury I'm dealing with right now. And my physical therapist says, you can lift heavy things, you can walk everywhere, but that twisting motion and throwing, no, you're not doing that.
Yeah. Oh, cool. The one thing I want to do more than anything else. I don't want to lift heavy stuff. I want to play this
right.
Yeah, I don't want to walk anywhere. I just want to chunk a disc 300 feet.
You can go back to work. That's fine, but you can't play disc golf. Don't do that.
Well, what am I going to work for?
Right. Well, I'm still going to work for that stuff behind me.
Yeah, I get. Well, that's true. Yeah.
So,
but if you're like if you're like Spiiciiboii and disc golf is your whole identity, then you got it. That's
it's better than being a Yankees fan being my whole identity.
Oh, listen, I don't have my Yankee fan hat on right now, and I'm doing this podcast instead of watching them beat up on the Red Sox right now. So you're welcome.
Yeah, oh, okay, this guy. So, as far as your club goes, what would be like the quintessential Sand Ridge memory that you have in running the club? Like, what's something that happened or an event that you hosted or something that really is near and dear to you? Because I don't really have a league, but my friends and I, our first round of 2024 with like my daily group that I play with, we had 4 throw-ins in 3 holes.
Oh my gosh.
And that stands out as like the best day I've had with all my homies. So I'm curious what yours would be. And then what were you going to say for the flip side?
I was going to say on the flip side of that, what's kind of the biggest, and maybe it's it doesn't have to be a dispute or something like that, but just kind of the biggest challenge that you faced, when you were kind of doing the running of it. What was like the thing that you would kind of caution other people who are running leagues and stuff like that? What's the 2 sides of that coin, the high and the low?
Those are 2 great questions. I think probably one of the most memorable things I gotta say is one of the tournaments I was running was the Catalpa Open. I had a young lady throw over a fence. Okay, in the first round, it was 2 rounds in one day. She threw over a fence, and she went to get her disc in the first round, and she sliced her hand open. And it was, I was tournament director, and it's like, I don't know what to do. I mean, so she managed to get back over the fence, and so she had a pretty big gash. I mean, it was like we need to bring her in. It's either bring her to the ER or bring her to a urgent care facility or something like that. And believe it or not, Terry Miller happened to be there. And Terry, man, this tells you what a great guy he is. Ended up
I can't have all that positive Terry Miller talk on this podcast.
I'm sorry, man.
It's a joke. We love
messenger here.
Obviously.
So Terry brought her to an urgent care place. They gave her stitches. Now, this was in her non-throwing hand. Okay, this is in her left hand. She's righty, and gave her stitches, brought her back just as round 2 was starting, and she's like, well, I know my score is all screwed up for round 1. Is it all right if I play round 2? I'm like, are you serious? We were all just kind of like, are you serious? You have stitches in your left hand. She goes, yeah, I know. And she went and played round 2. So that's something that's really memorable. I mean, that's really cool that we still talk about it to this day. That was a number of years ago, but we still talk about it to this day. I mean, it was just one of those silly little things that happened. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, and I would say that was one of the most memorable things that happened at a tournament. Now, but definitely the coolest thing that happened to me was one year at our Christmas party. I think it was the first or second year I was running Sand Ridge. A bunch of guys got together, pooled a bunch of money together, and got me a cart.
Nice.
It was amazing.
Hashtag team cart all day.
Yeah, and not just a cart. They had it pinstriped.
Nice.
And it is so cool. On the top, it says Dave the Rocket Guy, Rocket it says Rocket Scientist on there, and it's a black heart and it's pinstriped in this orange and red color. It looks so good. It looks so cool. I still have it. I pull that thing everywhere. If I mean, even a really hilly parts.
You've given me a great idea for my Zuka cart.
What's that?
I said you've given me a great idea for my Zuka cart now.
Oh yeah, get a pinstripe,
that bad boy. Awesome. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So they had a pinstripe. So that really meant a lot to me. There was just kind of a big thank you for starting up the club and running tournaments and stuff. So that was super duper cool. Now the other question, let's see, about what was the most challenging thing was it?
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, obviously, because we're a relatively positive podcast. But just something that was like, whether it was like something dealing with like the town or dealing with like trying to like, what's a challenge that you could kind of mentor on to other people who are just starting out running leagues and developing courses and maybe in their hometown or something like that. What's some advice or something that you could share a story about that?
Oh man, don't hesitate to say no. Do not hesitate to say no. Here's a lot of disc golfers really mean well, and it's not just disc golfers. I've seen this in all sorts of volunteer organizations. You have a lot of people who like to volunteer your time.
Oh yeah.
Okay? And that's probably the biggest challenge to deal with. You have a lot of people who will come up to you, and I see this in rocketry. I see this in disc golf. I saw this when I was working with a youth group at church. All sorts of stuff like that, where people will come up and they'll go, Dave, we should do blankety blankety blank. Now, what they mean is, if you read between the lines, is they mean, Dave, you should do this. Okay, I'll bet you guys have run into this, haven't you?
Oh yeah, I've for sure run into this.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know exactly. And you're 100% right.
Yeah. So, but you have to. It's hard. It's hard to address that because you want to say yes to these people because oftentimes they're really good ideas.
Yeah.
And you want to be a people pleaser. You want to be able to say, yeah, that's really cool. But at a certain point, you got to draw the line and say, okay, I have a life outside of this. I have work to do. For me personally, right now, I'm at work. I'm working on a project where I'm putting in like 65 hours a week. I don't have time for some of this stuff. So there's a lot of time. There was people will come up and say, well, we should do this project. And finally, I would just say, okay, you know what? We can do this project. We can do it on a Sandridge banner. I would be more than happy to support it wherever I can, but we need a project manager for this. We need somebody else to take it up. I just don't have time. Yeah. That's just all there is to it. So anyways, that's...
It's definitely, I just became like more or less the treasurer for my daily group. So like our ace pot that we started, I maintain the cash for it. And already I'm annoyed with trying to do it. So I don't know how, but everybody's like, well, what about if you only show up for 9 holes and you only have your putter and you ace with that and you're wearing shorts that day? I'm like, I don't know. Like, why is it up to me to make these rules? Like, I just want to hold the money because I trust myself. I don't necessarily trust you guys. So, I can't imagine running leagues and like having.
It's so much fun.
Like, I wish I could do the totalitarian thing like you did, where you're like, I'm in charge and that's as far as it goes.
Yeah. It's not a total, I don't run everything by myself. I do a lot of the planning and stuff like that. But, it's just, it's a lot of work, and you know, like Dave said, it's a lot of people of walking up to you and say, "Oh, you know, I thought of this the other day. Why don't we?" And it'll happen 100 times in like a week, and you're like, "Yeah, okay." And kind of even moving into the DiscLab part of it, DiscLab.io, you could go there, or you know, just hang out, watch the podcast. That you're supporting that, you're supporting us. Thank you so much. You know, doing stuff, you know, with the podcasts and social media and the shop and all that stuff. People can't wait to walk up and tell you an idea that maybe you had, or maybe you're working on, or something like that. And they're just like, yeah, okay. And then nothing. It's just like, hey, here, do this. Okay. All right, great. Thanks.
Yeah.
So I totally get it.
I'll bet I had an experience where I bet you guys can relate to this. So I have a tournament that I used to run. It's called Gilligan's Islands, and the idea is that this is a very short, not a really challenging course, and we had it was basically a C tier. And what I did is on a bunch of the holes, not all of them, but on a bunch of the holes, we would make hazard islands, not OB islands, but hazard islands. So I draw, you know, a big paint line around them. If you land out, you know how that works. If you land outside the island, you get a stroke penalty. Well, it's a 2-round event. And between rounds, you know, it was just, you know, no payouts, just trophy only. So we would put in, you know, we have a big pizza party between rounds and stuff. So that was, you know, and while we're eating pizza and stuff, somebody came up to me and started, you know, right between rounds, and I'm trying to organize the scores and I'm trying to do all this tournament director stuff. And this guy comes up to me, he goes, "Hey, we need to talk about hole 10 and how you place the island and blah, 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 blah." And he starts telling me all this stuff. And I just looked at him and I go, "So?"
Did he tell you, "Oh, you should have put it here"? Is that what he told you?
No, yeah, exactly. I'm like,
yeah.
There's nothing I can do about it now.
Yeah.
What do you want, dude?
Right. Yeah. Middle of the tournament. You should have did this. All right, great. Well, thanks.
And
so it's funny.
Leading up to that event, I mean, I have posted on Facebook and a couple other places like, "Hey, if you want input of where these islands are, let me know. I'm going to be out there on such and such day painting them out. So come on out and come with me." Did he show up? No.
Yep.
Did he have any feedback before I did that? No.
Yep.
No.
So,
well, we had at the fort this weekend, actually, on hole 1. So if you watch 2021 Worlds, hole 1 is the pin is straight ahead. Well, they changed the layout for the event that I filmed, so it's straight ahead, and then there's a huge dog leg left and about 300 more feet to the hole. So what most players were doing was throwing across the river and then throwing down the other fairway. Well, somebody figured out that you could just throw a huge anhyzer high left and cheat the hole, basically. So in the middle of our tournament, like day 1, nobody did that. After day 1 finished, when they were doing practice rounds, somebody figured that out. So day 2, somebody threw that big anhyzer line. And during the practice round, on day 1, I was on the tee pad of 4 filming MPO, and a Captain's Raptor landed right next to me. I mean, it could have Eagle McMahoned me right in the head if it had hit me. And so on day 2, somebody threw that line during play. And then the TD came over and he's like, "Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that because I'm putting a Mando there tomorrow. Like you're coming dangerously close to the hole 4 tee pad, so you can't be doing that." And so there was a change made right in the middle of the tournament, but it was for safety. So I thought, oh, okay, well, I've never seen a change done so abruptly, but you know, it was. Go ahead. No, I was going to say it was the first time I'd ever seen it.
I remember that. I remember hearing about that, and that's you know, sometimes you got to do that sort of thing. It's just kind of the way it goes.
We're starting to get to the end of the podcast, Dave. I just wanted to say thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it. We learned a bunch about rockets, and if you're an event organizer, really, I guess of any kind, and you want to have some rockets, just reach out to Dave, and he'll help you out with all your rocket based needs. But Dave, I want to give you a chance to plug all your stuff. Tell us, tell everybody where we can find you. And then anything else that you want to plug along the way, and we'll get this thing wrapped up.
Oh, the biggest thing I want to plug is I got a YouTube channel that I'm doing a little giveaway. So I got 2 giveaways I want to do, or I'm trying to do, and I have a bunch of discs here, just a bunch of random pile of discs.
They're blue like the sky.
Yeah, well, 2 of them are green. They're close to blue. They're kind of blue-green, I guess. And then so if you go to my YouTube channel, Dave the Rocket Guy or Dave TRG, so there's that giveaway, and I'm also giving away a rocket.
Whoa, it's a nuke.
Yes.
It is a nuke.
Yes, sir. Yep.
That's cool.
So this is a great kit. Even if you've never built a rocket before, this is not a bad one to start with. So it's a little challenging to build, but it's not bad. So, but yeah, go to Dave the Rocket Guy. The playlist is under contests, but I have all sorts of other playlists. Like I have a playlist dedicated to the flying basket and other rockets. You can see some of the big ones that I have in the back there. You can see a couple of them go supersonic. The big green and blue one there has been to 12,000 feet a couple of times, and over Mach. One flight was Mach 1.5, I believe, and the other one was Mach 1.3. So I have onboard video and all that jazz with it. I have all sorts of other video. I even have disc golf videos in there, believe it or not. From a putting league and a tournament, ice bowl we just did this past February. That was a lot of fun to shoot. So check out my YouTube channel now, and feel free to comment or ask questions or anything like that. As I pay very close attention to that channel, and I'll respond quickly. So, yeah, so that's the biggest thing right there. Just check out my YouTube channel. I would appreciate it. So
we would also appreciate it. So make sure you guys do that. Dave, can't thank you enough, man. It was so much fun to have you on. Sorry, Caleb decided that his internet wasn't working today, but we loved having you just the same. I'm glad you were able to get in here because early on we were like, how are we going to get him the link? I don't know any of
That's a good thing I checked. I was like, oh yeah, I'll just reach out to him on Twitter. And you had reached out to me just like moments before. And I was like, oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. I'm glad that worked out. That was perfect.
Yeah. No, it was great. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you so much for being on. We really appreciate it.
Oh, awesome, man. I appreciate you guys having me. This was a lot of fun. I've never done podcasts like this before. So this is
you were a great guest. Man. Great guest. Thank you so much.
You were wonderful. Do you want to send us out with the scream, Dave? It's kind of our tradition is to just yell and then we'll end the podcast with you screaming.
Yep, that's how we do it. We just cut it off mid scream and then put a little outro on the end of it. So just whenever you're ready, just kind of give us a holler.
Imitate your favorite rocket engine.
Nailed it. Okay. Great job. That's exactly how it works.
All right.
Have a good one.
Perfect. Thanks, Dave.
We'll see you guys around.
Have a good night.